So I'll just kind of get started. What's been going on since the last time we talked, and what's new, and yeah, we'll just go from there.
Well, obviously, we've been doing a lot on our YouTube. I've been trying to do some lives, and eventually, I'll be interviewing a lot of our owners because we have some really cool ones. Really decorated backgrounds on a lot of our owners. A lot of special forces, military, police, first responders, and then some just regular cool people. So I'm going to start interviewing them, and some of them have some really powerful testimonies that I think should be put out there. Things like, and stories about how these dogs have truly saved their lives, just in different ways. From alerting to diabetic pumps to alerting to pancreatitis to search and rescue, saving their lives. I mean, there's going to be some neat stuff coming up.
So what else has been going on is you got the big move, and talk a little bit about that and your program and all those things.
So we moved to southeast Oklahoma, like I said, towards the Ozarks. It was one crazy move. It cost a lot of money to move a 14 by 40 and a 14 by 14 and get special permits to move these special custom made kennels, and then to have to travel with 14 Dutch Shepherds who do not want to be crated, for that long. It was very fun and interesting, actually. But once we got here, I mean, they're acclimating pretty good. It took a while to get them adjusted to the heat here because the humidity is just unreal. Like it feels like 150. It really does. Um, but like I said, there was some. We were helping out with a ministry we deployed with Grindstone Ministries. They're out there right now. In fact, in Florida, we deployed with them in Mississippi during Rolling Fork, and that was a nightmare to see a whole town wiped away. It just blew my mind. And it was something really deep and dear to our hearts to be a part of that, to try to rebuild something and clean up something that our own government kind of failed at. To see FEMA show up and tell us to pretty much destroy water and things like that was not really cool. To see real famous churches and well-known pastors and stuff who just had their name out there and they weren't getting their boots dirty, so to speak. It kind of opened up my eyes to what's actually happening. And they deployed down there to North Carolina here recently when the same thing happened. And I believe they'll be going back. So if anybody who is watching, I would donate. If you want to be a part of it, donate to Grindstone Ministries. They also have a safe house for trafficked kids. You can donate to Caleb House, and we fully support that. Um, I don't think there's a better cause than that. So we did that. We did refuge training. We got tccc trained so that we're first responders. My husband now knows how to save my life, where I've been in medical for years. So he came to the realization at the time that if I got shot or died or whatever happened, he'd have to, save my life. Our kids got training. So there's a lot of neat things down this way. We did a video with them for tccc for dogs, for how to stop the bleed on your dog. That's one thing a lot of people don't train when you're out in the field, especially search and rescue or police work, different things. Your dog, if you're going to deploy a dog, especially if it's a protection dog, an apprehension dog, you need to also know how to save your dog's life, because if you're sending it, there's 9 times out of 10, if it's a bad guy, they're going to get stabbed, they can get shot, they can, all kinds of things can happen. So it was really interesting to go through that program, and also through a friend of ours. He's with Unyielding Faith, Echo 3 Canine. His name's John T. He's up in Canada, and he's actually one of my new trainers. He's going to come down and work for us. He's an EMT, search and rescue. He owns a Belgian Malinois that we got him through a fellow breeder. We picked up 5 puppies at the time and raised them. He got one of them. and he's taken this dog far. I'll be interviewing him too. Um, but to learn how to save your own dog's life, that's something that I'm really going to start doing videos on again and teaching it and training it, because a lot of people just don't know. Just like with people, they don't know. They don't know how to pack a wound. They don't know how to do any of that.
I can't tell you, like, when I see people with these really high drive dogs and they don't have those skills or the wherewithal or the care to be a part of that kind of learning process, I start to wonder.
Me too. I mean, because some of these dogs, they can eat sheet metal. They can eat a crate. Even the collapsible crates. I laugh when people are like, "Oh, this is my forever crate," because I've had dogs that actually broke those. Nothing's seal proof. And things happen. I've had a friend whose dog jumped through his truck window, a German Shepherd, and cut his face up. And if we didn't have the canine kit that we had, there wasn't enough time. We lived so far out, he wasn't getting to a vet. And if we didn't have those skills, that dog wouldn't be here. So, yes, I think it's very important. That's
Yeah. And so what have you guys been working on down in Oklahoma as far as the training side of your business? Have you been ramping that up, and how's that been going with the move?
It's been going good. It's been going good. We've been doing a lot of different kinds of training. We've had a lot of people actually here recently. I've had a ton of people applying for the dogs, especially with the economy and the president and the former president, if you will. Um, a lot of people are running in fear, and they're wanting protection dogs. And it's getting to where I have to really fully screen the people, because a lot of them don't have any idea why they need the protection dog. They just want to add it to their list of preps, or, add it to a list of, okay, I checked that off. But a lot of them don't understand how to use the dog. So I wrote a program personally, actually, a whole curriculum that I'll be launching here shortly, including the tccc for Canine, but on how to actually operate with your dog, okay, say a bad guy comes, I'm going to put him in a live scenario. It's kind of reality based scenario training, to where they have to go through and operate with that dog, and they have to learn when to send that dog, when the dog's thinking for itself, because the way we protection train dogs, it's not always a command that we're going to give them and they're going to go bark and bite. It's if someone comes at us in a threatening manner, that dog knows when to do that. That bite's always going to be warranted. It's never just going to be, some kind of mauling or stuff. And then there's lawsuits. So it's learning how to operate the dog in a professional manner, even if it's just a family and not a security team. It's just a regular family. They need to know how to operate that dog. If the husband's gone, the wife's got to know what to do with the dog if something like that happens. There's been a huge increase in home invasions and things like that, especially children getting abducted. That's a big one. A lot of calls have come in about families wanting to place, or husbands really wanting to place a dog while they're away with their family. And the ones that have and have gotten them from us, we've had several of them call and thank us. I've had single women call and thank me that they've actually had to use their dog, that things are that bad right now. That they've been followed home from work, they've been followed to their cars, they've had home invasions. Like, it's unreal, the things that are going on. And it's not always on the news either, because we hear about it through different sources. We know a lot of people. So I think this program I'll be launching, it's called Adversity Training. It was written, I did a lot of the writing. I've had some help with a lot of our owners who will also be instructing other fellow trainers. John's one of them, the guy I mentioned earlier. There'll be a few more. And it's going to be a pretty cool program. I think it's going to save a lot of lives, and it's going to save a lot of families from not knowing what to do when that time comes, not panicking in the second to remember their training and resort to it. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And there's a link on our website that goes into detail. We'll be launching it hopefully within the next few months. all good.
Mhm.
So I'm excited about it. A lot of our owners have already signed up. A lot more women. I would think a lot more men would be in it, but maybe it's just that macho heads, mindset. They're the man and they don't need it. But at the same time, they do. You need to know how to operate your dog. You need to know what to do. In fact, even if the dog gets shot and someone comes through the door, you still got to have a backup plan. You still got to know how to operate with your gun, let's say, with a second, way to defend yourself. And then that's the other thing. A lot of them don't know how to defend themselves. As you know, I'm a third Dan black belt. I'm a sensei, so I'll be teaching martial arts like self-defense to them, situation awareness, stuff like that, as a backup, because we can't always rely on the dog. And sometimes if they get a dog from someone else, there's no guarantee it's gonna bite when the time comes, especially without without proper training. So there's a lot of factors in that, and I've really studied the people that have owned my dogs and other working dog people that I've known through the years, especially being in the industry, and I just think it's a really big need. It's something that we just don't look at. They get the dog trained. Sometimes it's a board and train, but they don't know what they're doing when they get the dog. There's also scams going on. Like some guy, he he stole our information and was selling pretend dogs under our name, which was a big, some guy in Africa. And that's how I met one of our soon-to-be owners. Was he got scammed, and he ended up calling me and sending me the information. They had our logo, everything. Yeah, and he already paid, I think, $1,000. They were stealing pictures of our dogs and other people's dogs and selling them virtually. So I mean, stuff's crazy right now. So a lot's happened since our last interview. Our process has changed. I've added things to it. I've kind of used all their situations, life situations they've gone through, and I've kind of put it in a curriculum. And now that, I offer every single thing so that they're completely successful. It's up to them whether or not they take part in it. That's my thoughts, and that's my hope that most of them will. And again, I would hope more men would start signing up and learning how to do these things, because right now I think it's very important. Very important. Every applicant, even though they fill out an application, if they don't get on a phone call with me, they're not getting one. That's the bottom line. I need to hear from you, not just what your environment is, what your intentions are. I need to know that you have a trainer lined out. I offer training with all of our puppies. We do basic obedience, advanced. We can do protection work. I mean, from clearing a house to just being a regular family dog. I mean, I want to know that you're going to invest also in the training, because 9 times out of 10, when they don't, they do nothing. It's a bad mix for that dog. Dutch Shepherds have to have some kind of stimulation. They have to have some kind of training, some kind of job, something to do. Um, so yeah, if they don't talk to me, they don't get a dog. And there's been people that are like, well, I mean, and my prices are really good for an FCI, especially where I've imported them. I mean, it's really good, but they would rather save a couple $100 and go buy whatever they found, on some weird ad. And I get the call about a few months later, oh, I regret buying this dog. It ate our couch. This happened. It bit my kid's face off. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But they don't look into the breeders. They're not researching. They're not keeping an eye on how their last 5 litters did. It's just a quick, cheaper deal. And they end up paying for it. 9 times out of 10, they end up paying for it. It's not to say, oh, we'll buy ours and we're any better or anything, but I know what our genetics are. I know what I put into those dogs. I know from the second that they come out how much work I put into these dogs. Just like people asking if they can come and they want to pick their dog. That's never going to happen. The only people that have ever picked it were professional trainers, search and rescue, and government type things like that. The regular person, I will always match them to the perfect dog. I know our genetics. If you want a protection dog, I'm going to know which dog it is in that litter. And sometimes it might take a few litters to find that perfect dog for certain individuals. And I've noticed there's a lot of other breeders, including Dutch breeders, they don't do that. And maybe it's just a check for them, at the end of the day or something. But I think it's very crucial to know exactly what you're getting and to have someone that is willing to put in that work, willing to aptitude test them, willing to run them through certain tests to make sure that they're safe. If it's going to a family, I personally, if I wouldn't put this dog with my family, I'm not going to send it to a person with a family. If I wouldn't trust this dog with my own children, then I'm not going to send it to someone like that. There's other homes, there's other working homes for those. But a lot of breeders, they'll send one like a tier one to a family, and it's just a bad idea. Horrible idea. And they have no idea what they're getting anyway. That's my thought. And the other thing is they think it's like a cookie cutting thing too. They think that they're going to get Rin Tin Tin and not put the work in or something. There's people like that too. There's a lot of crazy people. There's people that I do turn down. They have unrealistic ideas of what's going to happen or what they want with the dog. Like I've had some calls where they really truly wanted a dog and they wanted it to get it trained. They wanted a dog from us and get it trained to attack their neighbors who were, yeah, just weird stuff like that. Like, that's never going to happen. Not on my watch, not on my business. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to send something, I'm not going to do it. But you get some really unrealistic calls and people that they should not have these dogs. Put it that way. I'll be like the Dutch Nazi. No Dutch for you.
So if I call you up and say, "Hey, I got this idea where I want a Dutch to attack my mother-in-law,"
Not
would
happening.
that
Not happening. Much good for your weirdness. So, yeah, no.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Yeah, but I can imagine. I can imagine you get all types. Yeah. eh, Different breeds breed different kinds of weirdness. So the bull breed and the Frenchie world, there's weirdness of a different variety. But um what else has been going on and what are some of the short-term goals that you guys are working on now?
Short-term goals. Really, I'm really focused on launching this second training business. Outside of that, just kind of, I've been really we've met a lot of people doing these live podcasts that we were doing, just kind of interviewing our people and new people, and I'm going to gear it towards doing that, just kind of get an idea from other working dog people and other fellow trainers. We're going to start doing like a training quarter where we all get together and we'll do that on live and kind of go over some of the stuff, including the crazy people, but also because we're all trainers. At the end of the day, I'm a Dutch Shepherd breeder, but I'm also a trainer. So we get the Frenchie people, the Bulldog people, the Doberman people, the Labrador people. So I just kind of want to showcase the different kinds of trainings that are available, different kinds of things that you can do with your dog. Where if you have a working dog, to me, they have, like I said, they have to have a job. So some of the jobs and things that people are doing with them, from barn huntings to dog diving to, I mean, whatever it is, there's all kinds, and that's what I kind of want to start doing the videos on. Their style of training, what. Oh, and that's the other thing. There's this new kind of training, and they're calling it like pack correction or something like that, where one of our clients sent a dog to a trainer. She couldn't get it to us, so she sent it to a different trainer. I'm not going to say where and who yet. That'll be on a video, but um, she used her whole pack to correct this dog who was a service dog to be that didn't need correction, right? So they mauled her dog, who was a fantastic working dog, ready to be a service dog. And now, there's some issues. Like, he's never going to trust other dogs around him, probably. There's damage done, and that's a new thing that they're training and telling people. And I've heard it from other people. This new pack order thing, like, I'm not a fan. I don't think any dog should get mauled to be corrected. I just don't think that's right. So we'll be going over things like that, like things not to do, things to try to stay away from, warning signs, things like that. I think it might help.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Do you foresee like doing a lot more online type of training, or is it?
Yeah, um, partially because we live so far out here. It's not that I don't want to do a lot of trainings in the facility and things, but living this far out, it's been a lot easier to do remote training. I have Starlink now, so I'm able to do it. But some of the trainings you do have to actually have the dog there physically. It's just a lot easier. Like, you can't do protection work through a camera. It's just impossible. But for the simpler things, yes, I can show them a lot more stuff. I can use one of my dogs and show them step by step exactly how to do a touch, a place, an out and leave it, a contact heel, things like that. And a lot of our owners, they'll call in now to do what I call brush ups, and we'll spend an hour or two on a live video from my website, and I'll be like, okay, show me what the issue is. They can show me, okay, he's not healing or he's not staying, and I can go over those things. So I'm enjoying the remote thing. Plus, I have children. I got, you know, uh, basically a small farm. We had sheep, we have chickens, we got other animals that I just can't always be at some shop or facility. So, yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be more online, and people are online. That's where everybody's gone. They went to platforms. They go to podcasts for information. I mean, I do it. I don't watch the news. I go to YouTube usually, and I follow certain individuals that I know it's a good source. Like Sean Ryan, I'm a fan of his show. Things like that. That's where it's all going towards. So, probably.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think information is the new currency in a lot of ways. And I also agree with you. There's no um, alternative to actually hands-on doing it and getting the real deal feel of it. But um, I think sometimes in today's world, what I've noticed, especially with younger folks, just getting them to commit to something is a lot harder and to stick with it. So, online seems like a place where they can get comfortable with something and comfortable with an idea. Then, once they get comfortable with the idea and they get used to it, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me," and then you can bring them into the fold, and they can get the idea and keep going further with it.
Especially the younger generations, they're all online. Like, it's hard for them to even be on a phone call. They don't, they text, that. They text or they Snapchat or they, whatever they do. Um, but it's so hard to get the younger generation just on a call. And when they call for a Dutch or for training, I basically have to force them on a call. I'm like, you have to talk to me. It's got to happen. My own daughter's like that. She just doesn't like talking to people on a phone or anything like that. Which our generation, it's just so different.
Yeah, I'm halfway in between. I don't necessarily. Part of me because I just been so long into the people business and I'm pretty cynical. I don't want to deal with folks, and but I do this podcast because I do want to have connections with people and like-minded individuals and get to know people. So I am a people person, and I don't mind, leaving a voicemail or making a phone call or anything like that. But if I can get away with it, I'll send somebody a text instead, um, including my supervisors, which I told my supervisor almost 2 years ago. I said, the less you and I have conversations, the more we're going to like each other. And she had a long pause. And I think it took her a second to realize what I was saying to her. And I've talked to her once in almost 2 years now. So
Oh,
she got what I was saying. The only times that we've conversated has been through text or email. So and I meant it when I said that. Uh, so part of me gets where they're coming from, but I'm a cranky old man in a lot of ways. But yeah, I do think that there's positives with this medium and negatives, and but
yeah.
the
Uh,
information side of it is where the positive comes in, especially if it gets people gives people the courage to get out there and do it.
exactly. Exactly. And I do get what you're saying. Like, I'm not a huge fan of society. That's why I live way out in the middle of nowhere. I'm okay with it, but at a distance. You know, I just can't do people constantly. Um, I don't know why. I've just always been that way too. But maybe I'm just old school. I like to just, let your yes be yes, your no be no. I still believe in a handshake, things like that. If you give me your word, I usually try to stand by, believe you for your word, and that's another thing that's kind of not happening anymore. People don't stand by their words, but yeah, that's a different story.
What are some of the things that you would advice would you would give to somebody who's thinking about becoming a new breeder or somebody who wants a breeding quality dog that
um, research a lot. Um, research a lot. Even before we imported these dogs from Romania, I've been watching their videos for about 4 years. We studied their lineages. I mean, we kept a conversation going. I wanted to see what generations were doing and study lineages. Paperwork will tell you so much. Like, in order to train certain protection dogs, even, I want to see their lineages. If they have papers, I want to see, because I want to see what the dad was doing, the mom was doing, the sire and the dam, and the grandparents, and so on. I want to know what genetics I'm working with. So I would do a lot of research. I've told people that thought they were going to get into breeding Dutch Shepherds, actually, and I tell them, ooh, get used to never having a day off, never having a vacation, right? It's not like you could just take all these dogs to some kind of daycare and call it good. Like, you can't. Like, no one's going to watch all them. And they can't. That's another thing. You have to have extra handlers or somebody that, so that you can have things like that, even emergencies. Like, if I was to go to the hospital right now, like, there's no one here to watch them. It's like you kind of you got to have help, that's for sure. And you really got to know that breed that you're dealing with, because there's also things like the Dutch Shepherd. They can't have a lot of anesthesia. We've talked about it before. I've lost dogs. I've had clients now lose dogs. You have to know all these important things just about their health before you ever consider even making more of them and breeding them. Um, because they're a high maintenance, complex dog. These dogs really are, especially the FCI. It's night and day from the KNPVs or the American lineages. They can have anywhere from 3 to 12 puppies. It just depends. They're more finicky of who they breed. Like, they won't always breed. We've tried, I won't say which dog, but we had to put, a mask on her just to breed her. And the dog, of course, the sire was freaked out because the mask. So it's not always easy. It's not like you just put them together and it just happens. Like, sometimes it's really complicated. Sometimes they're picky. Sometimes they're paired for life with a sire. I had, like, Joy, for instance. She's one of our best mamas. She'll only pair to outlaw. She will not pair to another male. We've tried. It doesn't work. There's just factors like that of getting to know which dogs, your dog's little, in what do you call it, ingenuity. I'm not even going to try to say that word tonight, but just little issues that they have. They all have quirks to their characters, things like that you really need to know them before you even try to get into breeding. So that's what I would suggest. That's what I have suggested. Not everyone listens, not everyone takes that into consideration. Again, if it was one of ours, and we've had people break our contract, a few people, about two, I think now, bred the dogs behind our back, broke the contract, and whatever they bred it to, I can guarantee they didn't study it ahead of time. And I don't know what they're mixing it to, so I don't know what's out there now, and I don't want my name on it because I've worked really hard. I've worked really hard over the years to invest in these lineages to keep them the way that they were when they got here. I promised the people overseas that I wouldn't mass breed them and turn them into, the watered down versions. I'm not going to do that. And I suggest other people don't, that they take the time, they research these, whatever breed they're going to breed, research, again, their paperwork, their lineages, the breeders, have that rapport with them, talk to them, talk to other owners that those breeders have sold to, see what the other dogs are doing. That's why I have a private owners group. I always suggest everyone joins it once they're, for sure put their deposit down and are going to be getting a dog. I want them to see what the other dogs are doing, to see what the genetics are doing. And at the same time, I get to see what the genetics are doing over time. And I've been blessed. We've been friends with most of our owners. We still have campouts, things like that, like just we've sold to some really good people, some really cool people, and I get to have visits from them, and when they go cross country, they've stayed here, or I get to see them or if I whenever I do get to a vacation, which is not very often, but we've went cross country and we've got to stop and stay with them and see the dogs, like have that relationship with them. I think that's the key to all of it. I mean, 3 matches, but I have a cat.
Yeah.
Have
It's so crazy to realize how much you do give up when you do have multiple dogs.
a lot.
And then you, like, for you, even more because you've got high drive dogs, and I thought we had it bad, right? Because um we have to take we take our dogs to two different boarding facilities. We take our big Turkish Shepherd to a homestead, and then we take the others to our repo vet that has a spa, uh, respite. I forget what they call it, but yeah, pet hotel type thing, and we take them there because they're uncut and everything, so they take good care of them, and they know they're breeding. A couple of them are breeding dogs, so they in our vet. We just feel very comfortable with them there. But that's honestly, I tell my friends, I'm like, well, the cruise cost us this much, and the boarding cost us this much, and then you see there's not much difference, and they're like, what the hell? I'm like, that's the sacrifice. That's the
Yeah,
sacrifices that I'm making here, and I'm willing to do it, but I know they're not. They wouldn't do it. They'd be like, "Fuck that." Um, but but for me, it's what brings joy to my life. It's what means something to me. Like I can come home and take care of my dogs, feed them, clean their kennels, and take them out, do their little exercises, and then do my morning routine and have them on my bed while I'm editing a podcast or resting up for my next shift, and I'm great. You know what I mean? It's what brings me joy, right? Um,
me too.
but the sacrifices. So that's something that I've been really wrestling with myself. Like, um, I'm brainstorming ideas. Like, how can I, bring somebody into the fold that might have some passion to come in and help us out and be a part of our dog life here. But again, finding somebody that's like a unicorn, you know.
I know.
Um,
I know.
yeah.
And you got to trust them, especially if you're bringing them. Like here, I'd have to trust them around my children. I'd have to trust them around my other animals with my dogs. You know, we've had dogs, like I've told you in the past, we've had dogs poisoned from doing a track for the police before, and the guy knew where we lived. We didn't know he knew where we lived, but he did. So we lost two of our best dogs, two of our best tracking dogs, you know. And that's a factor too. You can't just hire or bring anybody in. Like, I can't take a chance that I brought in, you know, I have kids, or I can't take a chance and bring in someone that might poison my dogs or that might kick my dogs, or I just don't know, you know, especially if they're protection trained. Like, it's not that easy. It's not like I just hire whoever on the street. And I mean, they have to really be, they have to know dogs to even mess with our dogs, if that makes sense. Decoys, I can't just hire whatever decoy. I can't just get a good deal on a guy because he'll charge me $100 an hour instead of four, you know. They can jar your dog's neck. We've had, just some doing PSA before. We had a dog that his tooth got broke on a sleeve on a flirt pole for no reason. It shouldn't have happened. You know, so there's factors like that. They have to have experience. You have to have that trust. So I do understand. Like right now, my dad's not doing the best in health, and he's in California, and I can't just take off in a plane. My family doesn't understand that. They're like, yes, you can. I'm like, I can't just leave all these dogs. I can't. They can't take care of themselves. It's like you're anchored to it. You know, it's not real easy for me to just hop on a plane and go do whatever. I have to always make sure that there's someone as a backup. I have to. And luckily, we've been blessed with a few of our owners that are also really good trainers that, as a trade, like sometimes when they have important things, they bring their dogs to us because they can't just take it to a daycare. We have owners who have brought them to daycares, and it breaks my heart. But the one of the guys, he's a ranger, he's a sheriff in Nashville. He's SWAT. His dog was poisoned at a daycare. They poisoned it, and I do believe for insurance, to claim insurance. They got a high end dog in there, so that's what happened. I knew people also that a trainer had other people's dogs and in his care, and he burnt the place down and collected insurance money. So yeah, you can't just trust anybody anymore. It's a very fine line of who you want to bring in. And I don't get, like I said, there's no days like I can go to town for a few hours, but I always have to come back and check. And I mean, you have to double check everyone's good, everyone's secure, everyone's happy. I mean, there's just steps, you know. But it has rewards. Like, I can't imagine coming home and not having them. I can't imagine not having them when I'm sad or if something bad has happened. Like, they're my go-to. I don't know, they just make me happy. It's where my heart is, you know. It always has been since I was a kid. There's just something about dogs, you know, that not even humans can do for me, I guess, you know. They're my pals. I talk to them before I leave. I'm like, okay, guys, I'll be back. And I know that they're, you know, and I realize, like, why am I telling them, you know? But they know. They know.
So what are your guys's uh, near future breeding plans? Are you got any, or are you just taking some time to get settled, or keeping the training, or
I'm trying to juggle all of it, honestly. I'm crazy like that. Um, no, I'm waiting actually right now, any day now. I've been waiting for quite a minute. I have to wait for them to all fully go into heat. I'll be doing 2 to 3 litters. I'll also be doing that at the end of summer, 2 to 3 litters. I have contracts I got to fulfill. I'm doing a pretty cool dog for FEMA, actually. um, a search and rescue dog. So there's things I've got to do. And people sometimes they get a little etchy if it's been over 6 months and they've been on a list, but I could only do what the father allows, you know, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's nothing I could do about heat cycles. When they go in, they're going to go in. And when they do, I'm going to breed them for you. And when the puppies are born, I will let you know. Like, you know, but some people, they get mad after a month being on a list. And I've had people wait almost a year for the right dog. One guy waited 3 years. You know, like it was a very specialty dog. Like, so yes, I have plans of breeding them, fulfilling contracts. At the same time, once the puppies are about 8 weeks, then I switch over to doing obedience trainings. Then some of them will stay for advanced obedience. I got things like that, while also trying to incorporate and launch this new business, this new training program. And I also do graphic designs. I also have an online apparel store. I make shirts, hoodies, hats, things like that. So I have a lot going on. I got 4 books that I'm trying to finish and get published as well. One of them will be about dogs, and I'll be I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want anyone to steal it or copy it. But once I'm done, I will definitely love to talk about it. I put pretty much all of my philosophies and theories and things that I've learned or I use for training, and I put it into a book. I've also made one that's going to be more geared towards children and children who have a new protection dog in the family, things like that. So, because I think the kids should be a part of it, because a lot of people keep them separate from the dog, and that's a big no-no. The dog needs to protect the kids, you know. So I've incorporated some of that stuff into some books, things like that. So I'm always busy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You're living the lifestyle for sure. That's very cool, and definitely you can't pigeonhole yourself in this lifestyle like I see some people do, and you got to have multiple streams of opportunities. So that's smart, and I wish you all the best on that level. Could you? Uh, I know we probably talked about it before, but can you just to give the audience that may not have watched or remembered, can you talk about the differences between the FCI lines, the KNPV lines, and now the North American style dogs? What are some of the differences, and why does the FCI dogs matter most to you at this point?
So I've had both. I've bred both. My first few dogs were KNPVs. I, for me, it's the FCI by far is night and day. Ours are larger, they're wider, and they are so much more eager to please during training. I can get a lot more out of them. They have an excellent calm down. They have an off switch, which is kind of unheard of with this breed. They can go from taking a bite, doing some protection work or apprehension, to I could put them to a down, and they're totally chill. They're not going to keep going and then accidentally rip your arm open or your face. You know what I mean? There's just, I can get a lot more out of them. And that's from a breeding and training standpoint right there. Um, Puppies, training them just basic obedience, I can get it out and knock it out on most of our puppies within 6 weeks. Where some of the others, when I was doing the other genetics, it could be a 12 to 16 week thing. It's just trying to calm down that over hyper non-stop non-shut off, and it can be frustrating, and a lot of them end up in the pound because of it, because people don't understand what's behind that or how to redirect that or what to do. You know what I mean? There's just so many factors that go into that. The FCI is also the purest form of Dutch Shepherd you can get. I haven't looked at the numbers for a few years, but it was, I believe, 1,500 worldwide, and there was, I think, 8 to 900 in the U.S. It's probably up a little bit. I'd say probably maybe even 1,500 in the U.S., and that might be over generous. but they have the same. There's just some downfalls. Like I said, they can't have over anesthesia when they have any kind of operation or surgery. Those things are a big no-no. For some reason, it kills them. They can't handle it. Um, the trainability in these dogs, the way that their minds work, these FCIs, is just phenomenal. You can literally see them the way that they're putting together things. They can think for themselves. They're like equal to a 5-year-old child. I put them up there with a collie, and that's the smartest dog to me because I've seen it. I've worked with it. German Shepherds were always my favorite, but since these Dutches, especially these FCIs, they got me. Obviously, I have 14, but they're just night and day. I would trust these dogs more with our police and military than I would the other lineages, for the simple fact, again, they think for themselves. I wish I can explain it in a better way. I try to display it in our videos. I try to complicate things and mix it up for these dogs, especially in their puppy stages. These dogs are extremely smart, like over smart. And a lot of our owners, they don't really truly realize it till the dog's, about 6 months old, and they're like, wow, like I didn't know that whatever it is. Like my daughter, she was taking care of one of our dogs before the move. In fact, she was going to keep the dog for a while, but her husband changed his job in the Marines, but they couldn't keep him the way that they wanted. But he literally got into, those white styrofoam boxes when you get like lunch, you take it home. He ate her lunch, closed the box, and put it back. They're extremely smart. It's not your average. It's not your average dog. That's all I can say. These dogs will crack you up. They're smart beyond any other breed I've experienced.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The KNPV lines are strictly geared towards um, performance. So there is some secret sauce in there that they use, and so it's not really necessarily, like you said, the purest form of Dutchie.
Correct. There's usually some Malinois somewhere, although mine always DNA'd at 100% Dutch Shepherd. It doesn't mean that 4 to 5 generations ago there was Malinois in them. Where these FCIs, they've not had Malinois. In fact, they were in Romania during the war. Was it World War II? So there was no Malinois used in them to save the breed. They weren't used for that. They were still over there. So that's why you see the size difference, the demeanor difference, the temperament difference. They're night and day. And I've heard, a lot of people that have DNA'd the other ones. They might come back with some Doberman, Pit Bull. I'm trying to think of what else I've heard over the years or seen, but different breeds, pit bulls. And I'm not saying that any of those are bad dogs and things, but if you're gonna, if you're buying it for non-working purposes or strictly as a Dutch Shepherd, I think that it should be told and you should be aware of that. Because not everybody's out there trying to do an IPO or PSA. They just want to bring it home and have a family dog or a family protection dog, and they're not aware of what all their dog is. I think it's real important that people do due to the DNA and that they let them know exactly what they're buying.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of I heard Pitbull was kind of the uniform thing that they used a lot of in Pitbull and Malinois to bring up the prey drive and all that. But um, which, like you said, there's no problem in it, but it ceases becoming a pure Dutchie. It's a performance dog. It's a dog that you know.
Yeah. It was made for a reason, and its genetics all are designed to do a certain thing. And sometimes the mixes, the genetics are fighting themselves, I think. Like sometimes there's certain breeds that you probably shouldn't mix in there. But they have. I've seen Malinois that people were breeding to Timberwolves, so it's just some things maybe shouldn't be included. I'll put it that way. Maybe for working, obviously suitable for working and different things like that, but not for your average Joe and your average family. I disagree with that. At least let them know what they're getting.
Well, one of the things that kind of interests me, just I don't know if you ever you quantify it in your training and everything, but what kind of I get from you guys is that that's what you guys are doing here. You're giving the average Joe the opportunity to own a working dog with capabilities. They just have to learn to put some work into it, and you're showcasing that with your training business and everything else. And so I you know I like that about what you guys are doing, and it's important, I think, if you're going to have a dog like this, that you are also um, you've got skin in the game as far as with your training business and all of that. I think it goes hand in hand if you're going to have a program like this. And so um, I would definitely not want to buy a dog from somebody who maybe doesn't have the skills to train a Dutchie, you know.
And they are out there. And and some of them that don't have the skills that I know, because the Dutch Shepherd breeding community, it's a small world. So even when people go behind our back, or they waste a lot of time and hours of videos and information from me, and then I get a call from one of them, which I won't say who. They're like, yeah, they put in an application. But some of them are able to hire trainers to at least work with their dogs, and I respect that all day long. I mean, I guess if I could afford it and didn't have the time, I probably would do the same. But for me, I enjoy doing the training, so it's not really a problem for me. But there is those that they have no idea how to train the dogs. They just don't. And there's been some that they hire a fancy one, do a few videos, and that's how they think. That's how the clients are picturing that. It always is, and it's a false reality. They hired that guy for that day, or they did 3 videos, and that's the image that they portray, and it's not always correct. It's not always true. So,
Owning certain kinds of dogs, it's work. You have to have a passion for it. You know, like in my world, if you're going to own a French and English bulldog, it's work. It's not the same kind of work as far as Dutch, but it's work. You're going to have to, you can't just open up the back door and let them go in your backyard. You got to watch them. You got to bring them in, especially when it's too cold or too hot out. You got to wipe their ass.
I've heard
Uh,
that.
they could get infections in their pocket, like their tail pocket, right? So you tell people this, and you're like, "Oh, why would you want a dog like that?" Well, because it's the kind of dog I love, right? I'm used to it now, and whatever. So, but it's work. It's work to own these kinds of dogs, and you got to be mindful. A dog gets a little raspy, gets a little cough. My Turkish Shepherd, I might just, he'll be fine in a couple of days. With one of my bulldogs, I'm going to watch it closely, and I'm only going to give him half a day. If he starts to get listless, I'm taking him to a vet. They're fragile, right? And if you're not prepared to put in that work and that time and that money to own a dog like that, don't own them. Please stay away from bulldogs. And that's the way I look at like things like Dutch Shepherds. If you're not willing to put in the work and the time and the effort, and then also realize that these dogs are not going to be always the best citizens in the world at home. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to mature, and you are going to lose some slippers, and you might lose that favorite chair of yours or whatever. If you're not prepared to lose those things, or you know what I mean, to have a puppy, up to about a year old, bite your wrist for play, for the
Exactly.
hell of it, or herd your kids. If you're not prepared to like redirect that behavior, don't get these dogs, because it's work in a different nature. And so these aren't plug and play animals. It's a lifestyle that, uh, go get yourself a golden doodle. And even then, those dogs need training, as you probably know as a trainer.
And every litter, like you said, I'm going to get a certain percentage that are going to be protection dogs guaranteed. That's every litter. They're going to be in there. But I've gotten it down to where I know my dogs enough to know which ones to breed to get to up the chances for those service dogs. Most of our service dogs are going to our veterans, and that's a big deal to us. We've always been partial to them in the sense that our government doesn't take care of a lot of their stuff, and the government isn't paying for them. A lot of them are paying out of their pockets, just like police. They're not getting the funds to get these dogs or the grants. Like, they need these dogs, but they can't. Sometimes we've done some things to bless them in certain ways, and anytime that we get those percentage, and I'm always shooting for service dogs, because protection dogs, I can get all kinds of them out of every litter. It's genetics. But specialty service dogs, like, we have a vet right now waiting, that he's a combat vet that desperately needs this dog. It's going to be for multiple things, including mobility. Like, these dogs, the ones that are that particular mix, that specialty, we always set aside. Even if I don't have someone waiting for it, I'm going to hold on to that dog, and I'm going to train that dog and start the foundation work and things like that, because I'm always going to get that call. We always have. And those dogs are always set apart for them. And then all the other ones, like, some of them are going to go to real active. Let's say it's a husband and wife, they run, they jog, they hike, whatever. I know what kind of companion that can be. It's completely night and day, and separate from this couple over here that has 6 kids, and they're wild and they're running through the house. Like, that's prey drive too for a dog. So I got to find that particular set of genetics, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of factors when I'm testing these puppies. It's not just he has a high drive protection dog, that one's lower drive service dog, because it doesn't work that way. Even a service dog has to have a really good drive just to do the work. There's other factors that go into it. So every single litter, I pair, well, before the litter, I make sure that I'm pairing certain ones, especially if I have a certain amount. Let's say 8 out of 10 people are looking for a protection dog, but the other 2 are looking for that service dog. But on this litter, I need 6 service dogs, right? So I'm always going to pair the ones that I'm going to get the most out of, if that makes sense. If it was strictly working people, I can do a working cross, do 2 of my best higher drive dogs that I know are going to have the best skill set for whatever job they're going to be needed for, especially for the police, stuff like that. Apprehension dogs, because the dual purpose, which I've seen here lately, they're kind of frowning on. They're doing more of the single purpose dogs. Our genetics are multi-purpose. Honestly, you can train them to do anything. I've had people get them already sending on 10 different scents and apprehension, and they can do deer tracking in the fall. Like, they're doing multiple things. Is that makes the genetics. It all starts from the breeding process, who you're pairing up. And that's a lot of things that other breeders aren't looking at. It's just, this is a male, this is a female, they want puppies, bam. They don't know what they're going to throw. And it takes time to know what they're going to throw. You can't just guess it. And like I said, also you have to look at the lineages. What were all the other family members doing? What were they producing? Were they titled? What were they titled in? Were they police dogs? All that stuff comes into play. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of information to study and research over the years, but it pays off, and it produces excellent dogs, I think. And I've seen, at least for our clients, it's produced excellent candidates. And then the rest is in their court. The rest is their environment from then on, what they put into that dog. It's got to be, are you taking it to public places? Are you highly socializing this dog? Because a Dutch Shepherd should be socialized. If you keep it and it never sees another human, guess what's going to happen when a human comes over? You know, there's so many factors like that. You can't just put it in a crate and call it good for 16 hours, play with it for an hour, put it back in, and think that it's not going to have any kind of anxiety or something. Like they want to be around you 24/7. When you go to the bathroom, they're at the door. Like they, they want to be around you 24/7. So there's just so much that goes into this breed. It's unreal, and I'm not sure all people understand that. They just want a dog at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's why I do the podcast because I want to learn the inner workings. I want to learn more about it, even if I'm never have a that style of dog or whatever. I want to know all about them, and I want other people who are interested in them to know about them. So and do their deeper research when they get information from experts like yourself. So, um, is there anything that we haven't touched that you want to touch on?
Um, One issue I do actually, when I brought up the scams going on, I've known some working dog people. I've known some police that even that have they are ordering protection dogs even from overseas. Some of them are coming with no teeth. It's not the same dog in the picture. Some of them are coming pregnant, and all kinds of stuff. Do your research. Please do your research. Go to a reputable breeder. Talk to the breeder. Don't just order it because you saw the cute picture online or you seen one video and that's the dog for you, because guaranteed it may not even be that dog that you're getting. I know that sometimes it might cost a little bit more to go to an actual breeder that's been around, but you're going to pay for it in different ways if not. Some of them they had cancer. Some of them, they have so poorly bred them that they don't live more than 5 years. We get that a lot, especially the German Shepherds. A lot of them passing away before 6 years old, and now Malinois have heard it, and that scares me to the point that I never want that to happen with the Dutch because I love them so much. I don't want to see them all with cancer and bad hips and things like that. So again, look at who you're getting it from, research it, make sure that if this is for sure what you want, make sure that you're dedicated and committed to it for at least 10 to 15 years, because these dogs can live that. With the proper diet, we do the raw and natural stuff, with that proper diet, they're going to be around that long. So you're committed to it, just like a marriage, just like having a kid. That dog is yours for that long. Be willing to commit to it, don't give up. If you can't figure something out, reach out to a trainer. Study as much as you can about that breed, the trainings that breed can do, things like that. That's my suggestion. I hate seeing these dogs in the pound. I'm part of all these groups for working dogs, and the more and more I'm seeing them, especially with the economy right now, which I can understand some of that, but I'm seeing hundreds in there, and I'm sure you've seen them too, and it breaks my heart. Because I know at the end of the day, they were good dogs. It's just bad owners, most likely, or owners that were uneducated. And that's my thought on it. Like, I hope that they just research and put their heart back into whatever they're going to commit to. That's my hope.
Yeah, 100%. Well, talk just reiterate again. Talk to end this and tie it all together. Just to talk a little bit about your new business again, and just give us the idea again, and what you're trying to get out of it, and what you're hoping the future is with that. Just explain to us one more time.
So it's called Adversity Training. You can find a link on my website for it. Our main focus and goal, number one, was to teach how to save your dog's life, but also your own with the tccc, the Stop the Bleed. To learn how to operate your own dog, especially your protection dog. It's geared more towards the protection dogs because a lot of owners, again, they even buy protection dogs and they just hand it over. It's like handing over the keys to a car, but they have no idea how to drive. So we teach that. We do the reality-based training. We'll put you in scenarios where there's going to be bad guys, there's going to be active shooters, there's going to be active stabbers. You know, it's realistic. It's on the street training of what's actually happening out there. We have a home invasion one. I don't want to say too much because I want people to find out in the class, but we're going to put you to the test. And if it's one of our protection dogs, we'll, from now on, I'm suggesting that they take the class before I ever hand them over the keys. You have to know how to operate the dog. And not only operate the dog, know how to pack a wound on dog. Because 9 times out of 10, again, if it's a bad guy, they're going to shoot your dog, they're going to stab your dog, or they're going to try to break its neck. I mean, what would you do if a dog is coming at you? You're automatically going to do something. You're not going to stand there and get mauled or bit, right? So the bad guy is showing up because he has bad intentions. He's not there to be your friend. He's there to either take your kids, your wife, or you, or your life. And this training is to teach you what to do in that situation. And in these days, statistically, these situations are happening even in the best neighborhoods. So that's what it's going to be geared towards. There's some other things like situation awareness, self-defense, active shooter scenarios, getting off the X, things like that. Again, I have some owners, some highly decorated owners that will be instructing that have helped me with some of the curriculum. They're a part of it. It's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be pretty badass, actually. It's something that I enjoy doing, you know. It'll be launching here in a few months. Again, you can find it on our website. And I hope you guys sign up. It's been mostly women and kids that are wanting to do it. I'm hoping men will step up, you know. Stop being macho. Stop thinking that you're all that, because at the end of the day, you're going to resort to your training, and that's your family's life depending on it, you know. So I look forward to doing that here in a few months.
My name is John Toes. Let me take a brief moment to share a bit of my dog journey. I started with search and rescue as a dog handler in 2012 with a German Shepherd Husky X training in USAR and HRD. We worked within SAR organizations until 2016 to 17 when I started working independently, deploying for police, fire, First Nations, and occasionally to assist families. Nanook was retired in 2017 due to fallout from injuries, at which point I started training a Dutch Shepherd, Maya, named because one of her first actions as a puppy was to try and bite me in the bum, so her name stood for Mind Your Ass. At that time, I had teamed up with another HRD handler, and we trained and usually deployed together. In 2021, Maya died in an accident, at which time I was introduced to OSS through a series of miraculous events. And in September of 2021, I flew to Kentucky to meet Jen and Mike to get Aurora, my Belgian Malinois. Aurora is trained to find human odor, be it tracking or air scenting. We also train narcotics detection, although this is a work in progress. Career-wise, entered the world of emergency medical services in 2006, starting as an EMR, then EMT, then paramedic. And while I am exiting the career, still maintain my paramedic license currently. While working on CAR, I filled several additional roles, from being a supervisor to instructing EMTs and paramedics both in the classroom and as a preceptor, aka field training officer in police terms. I am currently working on building a new company, Echo 3 Services, when I hope to incorporate my experience as both a dog handler trainer with my paramedic experience in a training capacity.